Hello everyone, it is Matt here from Scoop in Response, and today we're going to be looking at a new commander that has been spoiled with Modern Horizons 2. It's a Enchantress type commander, really sweet card. It does similar things to cards like Tuvasa, except I think it does it a lot better because you're not limited by a once a turn trigger. So we'll go over the commander. It is 1 green, 1 white, a legendary enchantment creature nymph. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain 1 life and draw a card, and it's a 1/2. So essentially with this commander, we are looking to play a whole range of really cheap enchantments. So we have 1-drops aplenty with this, and we're going to go off in a number of ways. We've got a few different win cons with Heliod Ballista, we've got Infinite Life with Spike Feeder, we have a Sionis and Shielded by Faith combo as well. But realistically, there is just a whole bunch of ways that we can make a whole bunch of dudes, get them really big, and just trigger that draw a card and gain a life a whole bunch. So let's check out the deck. For creatures, we've got Walking Ballista, Alseid of Life's Bounty, Arbor Elf, Aragothian Enchantress, Destiny Spinner, Herald of the Pantheon, Sanctum Weaver, which is a new creature. It's basically Serra Sanctum on a dude. Starfield Mystic, Courser of Krufix, Dryad of the Elysian Grove, Eternal Witness, Heliod's Pilgrim, Heliod's Suncrowned, Mesa Enchantress, Satyr Enchanter, Setessan Champion, Siona Captain of the Pylaeus, Spike Feeder, Verduran Enchantress, Academy Rector, Ajani's Chosen, Archon of Sun's Grace, and Karametra, God of Harvests. So the list is really simple as far as your creatures are concerned. We've got a few combo pieces, obviously the Walking Ballista Heliod combo. We've also got the Spike Feeder included in there. So those are, I guess, a package that are pretty straightforward for a lot of decks. You see them included when they're in green and white. We've got a bit of protection with things like Destiny Spinner, Alseid of Life's Bounty. We've got very limited dorks. We've got Sanctum Weaver, Arbor Elf. This will make sense when we look at the other things that we have later on in the deck, that we don't have a whole bunch of, I guess, 1-drop dorks like usual green decks. It's mostly about just cycling through the deck and getting all of our enchantresses out and, basically triggering, 3 or 4 cards drawn per enchantment cast. So that's really the goal of the deck. We've got a lot of very cheap spells, so we don't really need to ramp into much. We've got things at the top end with Karametra, God of Harvest. Whenever we cast a creature spell, we can search a library for a Forest of Plains. That's going to thin out our deck, which is quite heavy in the basic forests and basic plains. It's essentially that plus a few other abilities. We've got land tax, all of that as well. So we want to have a high basic land count for this. All of our enchantment creatures obviously trigger our commander, but we also get to enjoy the fact that they are going to be, drawing cards within all of the creatures within the non-commander list. I don't think there's anything particularly surprising. We've got a few tutors with Heliod's Pilgrim, Eternal Witness to get stuff out of the bin, Dryad's just a good card for making an extra land drop, also an enchantment creature, so really sweet there. And yeah, the rest are really just tutors, I guess. The 2 token creators, Ajani's Chosen and Archon of Sun's Grace, are both really sweet in this list because you're just going to get so many enchantment draws, so many tokens created per turn, with your actual 1-drop enchantments. So I don't think there's a lot in the way of surprising things in the creature base. Overall, I think it's about 24, 25 creatures, so nothing too crazy with that. Essentially, we're just looking to, do more of what our commander does and get through the deck. So for enchantments, we're going to lose webcam here for a moment. Yeah, we've got quite a few enchantments here. So we've got Abundant Growth, Ajani's Welcome, Authority of the Consoles, Burgeoning, Carpet of Flowers, Ethereal Armor, Exploration, Flickering Ward, Font of Fertility, Hyena Umbra, Land Tax, Legion's Landing, On Thin Ice, Rancor, Shaper's Sanctuary, Sky Tether, Spider Umbra, Utopia Sprawl, and Wild Growth, and those are just the 1-drops. So we've got an absolutely huge amount of 1-drops. They are designed to protect our commander, to give us a bit of color fixing, but realistically we're not too worried about that. They're designed to help us ramp, to help us get extra land drops, to force our opponent's creatures to come into play tapped, and for us to gain life when we do things. So really, really useful. All of the Umbras and Rancor, all of those things are just absolutely great for protection. Rancor and Flickering Ward are great because we've got this repeatable ability to continuously trigger those gain a life and draw a card triggers from our commander and our enchantresses. So Flickering Ward is an interesting card. It's basically a 1-drop, gives protection to a creature for a chosen color, and then it lets you sorry about that. And it lets you return it to hand for 1 white. So what this reads as 2 white, draw a card, gain a life. 2 white, draw a card, gain a life. And it comes back into your hand each time. So super, super useful with regards to that. I'd encourage you to have a look at the, I guess, the deck list on Moxfield, because, you know, there's quite a lot of text on some of these enchantments, and you know, they're not particularly common. I mean, it's cool that, you know, Sky Tether actually is useful in a deck. So I love the fact that this just made sense, that we've got a cantrip that's removal, and, you know, super useful, super cheap. There is a whole bunch of expensive cards in this list. Unfortunately, it is pretty difficult to build an enchantment list without splashing for those expensive ones. But yeah, it's unfortunately it's par for course with Enchantress decks. For the 2-drops plus for the enchantments, we've got All That Glitters, Darksteel Mutation, Earthcraft, and of course I've missed the other combo for Infinite, which is Earthcraft and Squirrel's Nest. We've got Fertile Ground, Kalini Heart Expedition, Sterling Grove, Stony Silence, Sylvan Library, Ancestral Mask, Enchantress's Presence, Karmic Justice, Monologue Tax, Shielded by Faith, Squirrel's Nest, Bear Umbra, Smothering Tithe, Cathar's Crusade, Mirari's Wake, and Sigil of the Empty Throne. So a few token creators. We've got Sigil of the Empty Throne, Squirrel's Nest. We've got most of our ramp being connected to an enchantment in one way or another. So the Kalini Heart Expedition, you know, it's just basically the same as a Cultivate, except we get to draw a card as well if we were playing this instead of Cultivate. You know, we've got we have our Fertile Ground, which is just a worse version of your Utopia Sprawl, because it costs 1 extra. We've got a few tax effects with Monologue Tax and Smothering Tithe. Bear Umbra is as much a protection spell as it is ramp, because we get to untap with all of our lands if it attacks, basically. So it doesn't need to go on your commander necessarily. It's something that you can just, you know, throw away and not be stressed about it dying. You know, something like your Rector is a great target for that, because, you know, people aren't going to want to let it live, but if it dies, you get to go and get your Mirari's Wake or Sigil of the Empty Throne. Wow, it's really early for me this morning and I'm struggling to speak. We've got a few tutors here as well with Sterling Grove. We are going to, you know, disable a lot of decks with Stony Silence, Ancestral Mast, and all that glitters. You know, these are just big pumps for us. And of course we've got Shielded by Faith, which is just that combo with Siona, so we can tutor for that and you know, get infinite dudes and infinite tokens. If we have Earthcraft, that gives us infinite mana as well, so lots of cool things that we can do with that. Karmic Justice is just a bit of a protection for us, so whenever our stuff dies, something else is going to die too. So that's pretty sweet there. And Cathar's Crusade to make all of our stuff a lot bigger. Moving on to everything else in the deck, because it fits quite nicely into, I guess, these 3 categories. Really basic in the way of your land base. So I've had a few fetch lands. Excuse me, you probably only need one dual at a time with your with the types of spells that you're playing early on, you're going to draw into a lot of your deck. So I would say the Savannah's not necessary by any stretch. The Serra Sanctum is obviously an insane card, but it is quite pricey at about $300, $400 at the moment, depending on where you look. You can see the large amount of basics, so 18 basics in total. The only other things, we've got Reliquary Tower, Hall of Heliod's Generosity, and Dryad Arbor. I'm not a fan of Reliquary Tower typically, but with a deck that's just designed to just draw a whole bunch of cards, you'll often have these weird kind of runouts where you might not be able to get back down to 7 by end of turn, and I think this is fine for a 2-color list. Hall of Heliod's Generosity is just to basically recur once things gets removed, so you should be pretty happy with that most of the time. We've got a single Planeswalker with Calyx Destiny's Hand. He's just basically an Enchantments Matter Planeswalker. He tick-ups to search for enchantments and auras on the top of your deck. He does some other cool stuff, like he does a bit of a what's it called, on thin ice effect for his downtick, and I don't think anyone's ever going to be casting his ultimate. Green Sun Zenith, obviously great tutor. Most of the time you're just going to be using it to find a specific creature, you know, something like a Dryad of the Elysian Grove if you want to hit an extra land drop, you know, or there might be a specific hate piece or something like that you want to get out from your deck. Idyllic Tutor, I don't think it's a particularly good card, but in this list it's obviously insane because all of our deck is built around enchantments. Enlightened Tutor, obviously a much better version of this card. We've got Worldly Tutor, Eladamri's Call, as filling out the tutor package. So as you know, there's not a lot of creatures in here, but you know, useful nonetheless if we need to go and find a Spike Feeder or you know, the other piece of our Heliod combo or something like that, you know, particularly useful. We've got Creeping Renaissance, which is a bit of an interesting card. So choose a permanent type, return all cards of the chosen type from your graveyard to your hand, and it has flashback. So this reads 5 mana, get all of your enchantments back. So that's real sweet. The last card of the deck, we've got Helm of the Gods. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control, and it's a 1-drop with equip 1. So for 2 mana, this is an absolutely enormous pump spell, much the same as, you know, Ancestral Mask or your All the Glitters. So really sweet in that regards. So that's pretty well the list. This deck should be extremely straightforward to play for the most part. I think decks like this are really sweet to have built and sort of available for your pod, because it gives you an opportunity to give maybe a new player that hasn't seen a lot of the interactions of Magic or hasn't got a lot of experience in Commander before. It gives them the option to play a very powerful deck that is always going to be able to do what it's supposed to do. And it might not be the most powerful you know, deck in a pod, but it's definitely going to be able to go off. It's definitely going to be playing Magic while you're piloting this deck, and it doesn't require a particular, I guess, level of difficulty or you know, a whole bunch of weird interactions that you would need to sort of memorize before you play the deck. So absolutely sweet type of commander for a new player that's also going to give you a high power ceiling that you can excuse me, that you can expand into. If you think about a lot of the expensive pieces in this list, so I think we've got Serra Sanctum, Savannah, Earthcraft, you know, that cuts a lot of the budget out of the deck. Same with all of the fetch lands, you can cut a lot of the budget out of the deck with that. Switch your snow covers to basics and get your on thin ice out. You're saving money again in that as well. So this gives you a really good upgrade path where the majority of the cards that you'd want to be upgrading into, things like Worldly Tutor and Enlightened Tutor, you know, those are cards that are just great in so many different lists, so you're not going to feel bad about upgrading into them. Same with Green Sun Zenith, you know, things like Sylvan Library, Carpet of Flowers, those are on the pricier side of things too. Use them in any green deck, absolutely sweet, I guess, upgrade paths for multiple Commander decks. So that is the list. Thanks so much for checking out the video. If you like the content, you'd like to see more of this, feel free to hit the subscribe button, and a share and a like's always appreciated. We will be ramping up now that we have the majority of the Modern Horizons 2 spoilers listed. We'll be posting a lot more regularly than we have for the last few weeks. So keep an eye out for new videos in the future, and I shall see you next time. Bye for now.